What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, January 1st, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. It is New Year's Day, 2024, and I want to once again wish everybody a happy and healthy 2024, and I pray that God watches over you, watches over your family, and I pray that all your dreams come true in 2024. And before I get to the breaking news, I want to quickly shout out two YouTube channels. These are friends of mine. We have Lewis from Grand Supreme News. He has a second channel called The Real GS News. He does breaking news just like I do. He works very hard. He puts out multiple updates a day. This is his second channel. He's trying to build up his second channel, so check him out, The Real GS News. And then also Prepper Tribe. He's a smaller channel. He took a break from YouTube for a while, and now he's back. He's got awesome live streams. Really cool guy, good friend of mine. Check him out, Prepper Tribe. So we have some major breaking news coming in from basically all over the world. Putin is promising to intensify attacks on Ukraine in response to the attacks on Belgorod by Ukraine over the weekend. He said, and I'm going to read to you exactly what he said today. This was today. He went to a military hospital and he visited wounded soldiers. And he said, the Ukrainians want to scare us and create uncertainty within our country. We will intensify attacks. No crime against civilians will remain unpunished. Okay, so this is very, very concerning, guys. I'm very worried that Putin is going to order some kind of massive missile attack in the coming days or weeks. And the missile attack that Putin ordered before New Year's Eve was the largest missile attack on Ukraine since the war started. Over 125 missiles were launched. And then afterwards, the next night, Ukraine retaliated with an unprecedented attack on various parts of southwestern Russia. They launched missiles and drones. And according to the Russian government, over a dozen people were killed and over 100 injured. So it was kind of a tit for tat strike there. And now Putin is saying he's going to intensify attacks. Okay. So we have to be ready, guys. 2024 is going to be unlike any year we've ever seen. We're going to see massive escalation occurring in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in Korea, in China, in Venezuela. Here in the U.S., we have an election coming up. So make sure you guys are prepared physically, mentally, and spiritually. We currently have a U.S. nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over South Carolina. This is a Boeing E-6B Mercury TACAMO plane, and these planes are responsible for remotely launching all of our Minuteman III ICBMs. And during a nuclear war, these planes would function as a backup transmitter for the Pentagon. They can communicate with our nuclear armed subs using these planes. These planes would actually transmit emergency war orders, which are the nuclear launch orders from the president, in case our ground-based transmitters get destroyed in a nuclear war. These planes would basically function as a flying radio antenna. Okay, so we have one of them up in the air. Not too unusual. I would say that's kind of elevated, especially for New Year's Day, but we do have one up in the air right now. We had a lot of activity in the Eastern Mediterranean today. Here we have two British Eurofighter Typhoons that came from southern Turkey, and my guess is they were doing a mission over Iraq, and they were accompanied by a KC-2 Voyager, which is an aerial refueler. So these two Eurofighters went to Iraq through southern Turkey, and they had a KC-2 Voyager accompany them to refuel them. So pretty interesting. I don't know if they were carrying out some kind of an attack on the Iraqi militias, the Iranian militias that are in Iraq, or what they were doing. We have some initial reports coming in from various sources, including Sky News, reporting that there's been an exchange of gunfire between Houthi rebels and a U.S. warship in the Red Sea today. Apparently, 2 missiles were fired at the warship, and they were either shot down or they missed because there was no damage to the ship, and we don't have any positive confirmation from the U.S. military just yet, but it usually takes them half a day to a day to confirm any kind of incident like this. And apparently there was an exchange of fire between the Houthis and the warships. So in addition to the missiles being fired at the ship, there was also some either small arms or crew-served weapons that they were firing at the warship from some kind of fast boats. And earlier today, we had a bunch of anti-Israel protesters in JFK Airport. They were once again trying to interfere with traffic. As you can see here, they had a bunch of caravans and they were slowing down traffic into and out of JFK Airport. So these anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian protesters are getting more and more gutsy, to say the least. And last night in Berlin, Germany, there were some pretty intense riots that were started by Islamic extremists, and German police had to deploy in full riot gear. I can't share any footage, but the footage that I saw was really, really intense, guys. So, these protests are getting more and more crazy. And some pro-Palestinian protesters also tried to launch a balloon near JFK Airport to interfere with flights, okay? Because if there's any object in the air near the runways, they have to shut down the airport and get the object out of the way. So they launched some kind of balloons in front of the tarmacs, as you can see here, okay? So they're really getting crazy. And there was a 4.1 magnitude earthquake off the coast of California, near Long Beach, California. And there was also a 3.3 magnitude earthquake in Yellowstone. And at least 4 people have died in Japan's Ishikawa prefecture following a 7.6 magnitude earthquake last night, according to local authorities. Okay, so lots of earthquakes, guys. What a way to start off 2024. We have missile strikes, we have earthquakes, we have riots, okay? So it's a bad sign, guys. All these things happening right on New Year's Day is a bad sign, okay? There's an old saying that my mom used to tell me. It comes from Poland. It's an old school Polish saying that like grandmothers would say to their grandkids. And they say, whatever you do on New Year's Day or on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, however you behave and whatever you do is the way that you're going to be the entire year. Okay, so just going by that, it's not looking too good. Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro said Saturday he will continue to deploy nearly 6,000 troops until a British military vessel sent to neighboring Guyana leaves the waters off the coast of Guyana. In a video posted to Twitter, Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino appeared surrounded by military officers in front of a marked up map of Venezuela and Guyana, a former British colony. Padrino said the forces are safeguarding our national sovereignty. Armed forces have been deployed not just in the east of the country, but across the entire territory, he said. They will be there until this British imperialist boat leaves the disputed waters between Venezuela and Guyana. So this is very serious, guys. Venezuela has deployed thousands of troops. They've deployed their own fast boats or frigates, whatever you want to call them, to deal with this British patrol boat that's been deployed to Guyana. Now, Venezuela is a communist country, and Maduro wanted to take the entire western half of Guyana basically going back 100 years and saying that that was originally Venezuelan territory and it was stolen by the British from Venezuela when Guyana was a British colony, blah, blah, blah. So this part of the world could pop off and we could have another war front, guys. Now, the president of Venezuela and the president of Guyana met before Christmas and they kind of worked out some kind of a peace agreement that basically they agreed that they're not going to use force to settle any of these issues that they have between each other, that they're going to use diplomacy. But we'll have to wait and see if that holds. And we have some breaking news coming in from Ukraine. Apparently, there's a large concentration of Russian forces in Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod oblasts, at least 19,000 soldiers. This was reported by Serhiy Nayev, the commander of the Combined Armed Forces of Ukraine. So Ukraine is saying that Russia is massing 20,000 soldiers in southwestern Russia in Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod oblasts. I don't know if that's for security purposes because they're afraid Ukraine is going to go in there on the ground or launch more aerial attacks, or if they're going to be going into Ukraine again and trying to go after Kharkiv or Sumy. I think that's what we're going to see, guys. I think we're going to see Putin get aggressive again and try to take more land from Ukraine now that he sees that the West is starting to slow down on their support for Ukraine. And there's division here in America over whether or not to give equipment to Ukraine or not. So he's going to seize that opportunity. He's not stupid, guys. And Russia launched 90 drones at Ukraine in the early hours of New Year's Day. Ukraine says it managed to shoot down 87 of them. And Zelensky said Russia would soon face Ukraine's wrath. Zelensky said in his televised New Year's address to Ukraine that Russia would soon face the wrath of domestic production. Ukraine will have at least 1 million additional drones in its arsenal next year, Zelensky added, as well as F-16 fighter jets delivered by its Western partners. So that's crazy, guys. Okay, 1 million drones, and he wants to draft 500,000 more troops, okay? And I know that they're just drones, but if you have 1 million drones, I mean, you could do a lot of damage. Imagine if they sent 1 million drones into Russia and they just started crashing these drones all over the place and just bombarding Moscow and Belgorod and all these cities. That would be insane. Or Crimea. During last night's Russian attack on Ukraine, Russia hit the University of Dublin in Lviv with a missile, which is where Stepan Bandera studied 100 years ago. So that's very interesting. Definitely a symbolic attack. Okay, they wanted to destroy that university where Bandera studied. And if you don't know who Bandera is, Bandera was a Ukrainian Nazi. He was working with the Nazis during World War II to try to ally himself with the Nazis against Poland, Russia, and all of Ukraine's neighbors. And this update was sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a 60% off sale for the end of 2023. And they're also doing a 25% sale on their 4-week emergency food supply. To get these deals, you have to go to preparewithnyprepper.com. The link is in the description below this video. And their 4-week emergency food supply is contained within 2 rugged, watertight buckets. Free shipping is included. So you have a month's worth of food packed into just 2 buckets. If you have to bug out, you can easily take those buckets with you. If you live in a small apartment, you can easily find a space to store 2 buckets, and you're going to be set for at least a month. And this food is freeze-dried, so it has a 25-year shelf life. It includes breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks. And Patriot Supply is also running a 60% off end-of-the-year sale. And to take advantage of that, you have to click on the Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. It's at the top of the page. You click on that, and it'll take you to their general store. And you'll see here all kinds of prepping and survival products. They have MREs, they have 2,400 calorie emergency ration bars, they have canned heat and cooking fuel, they have potassium iodide, survival seeds, solar generators, solar panels, anything you can imagine, it's all in here. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get 25% off of their 1 month emergency food supply and to also take advantage of their 60% off sale across their entire store. And I'll leave a link in the description below this video. And they also hit the Roman Shukhevich Museum in the Białystok district. Roman Shukhevich was the commander of the Ukrainian insurgent army in 1943 to 1944, which committed the Volhynia Massacre, which was a genocide of Polish people living in the southeastern parts of Poland, or basically modern-day Western Ukraine. And the Russian Ministry of Defense said that it targeted a radar complex for the S-300 air defense system in Odessa. That was that big strike that they launched last night. I showed you guys a picture of that giant building on fire. So Russia's claiming that that apartment building had a radar complex. I personally don't believe that. So very interesting that Russia would target these symbolic targets in Western Ukraine, the University of Dublin, where Bandera studied, and then a museum for Shukhevich, who was the leader of the Ukrainian Nazi army in World War II that committed the genocide of Poles. So I don't know if they're doing this to try to seem like they're the heroes and maybe try to split Poland and Ukraine. You know, that's one thing that the Russian government has always tried to do, is to try to split Poland and Ukraine apart and kind of make Poland mad at Ukraine because of the genocide in World War II, and kind of say, hey, look, Poland, why are you friends with Ukraine when they killed your people in World War II? So it could be like a psychological trick. And Ukraine shot down 9 out of 10 Russian drones and 1 missile today. And one of the missiles was launched by Russia in the afternoon, and it was intercepted over Dnipropetrovsk. And the drones were Shahed drones. Again, 9 out of 10 intercepted. And Russian drones killed 2 civilians in the Sumy Oblast. Okay, the Sumy Oblast is all the way in northern Ukraine, close to Belarus and Russia. Very interesting that they would send drones there. We haven't really seen Russia attack the Sumy Oblast since the beginning days of the war, so this is not a good sign. And we have Ukrainska Pravda reporting that Elon Musk shut off Starlink when Ukraine was trying to attack the Russian Navy on the night of September 16th to 17th in 2022, and that Ukraine attempted to strike Russian ships in the Sevastopol Bay, but control over their drones via the Starlink satellites broke down 70 kilometers from the target. So that's very interesting. And we have some very concerning news coming out of Niagara Falls. If you guys remember, before Thanksgiving, on the eve of Thanksgiving, there was this weird situation where somebody drove their car across a border crossing just north of Niagara Falls, and the official story was that the accelerator pedal got stuck or something, and they couldn't stop the vehicle, and they went right into the border crossing barriers. I don't know if I believe that, but whatever. But this is very interesting, and it's related to that. An Iranian with terrorist ties was caught after illegally entering the U.S. near Niagara Falls, New York. And after the Iranian was apprehended, agents with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement removed him from the U.S. on December the 21st. The Iranian national first attempted to enter the U.S. on October 10th by presenting himself to American immigration authorities at the Rainbow Bridge pedestrian walkway in Niagara Falls, New York. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers denied him entry and returned him to the Canadian Border Services Agency the same day. 2 days later, on October 12th, he illegally entered the U.S. in another area, attempting to bypass agents stationed at the Whirlpool Bridge port of entry, but he was apprehended. The Iranian national is also a permanent resident of Canada, identified as a national security priority, who was wanted by Canadian authorities on assault charges, ICE said. On November 8th, ICE Buffalo agents served him with an expedited removal order, and on December 21st, agents removed him to Canada. So, guys, they're trying to get through the Canadian border, not just the Mexican border, okay? So we have to be on high alert. The FBI, the DHS, the National Counterterrorism Center issued a warning 3 weeks ago, way before Christmas, saying that this coming winter we could see a spike in terror attacks in the U.S., okay? So be on high alert, guys, if you go out anywhere in public. And Iranian militants in Iraq say they carried out an attack on an American base in Syria this morning at the al-Shaddadi base. And Israeli defense officials tell the U.S. that Israel will not accept Hezbollah positions near the Lebanon border, and the IDF aims to reshape the border region while preparing for a larger war. And this was reported by Walla News. Okay, so Israel is preparing for a larger war. I've said this multiple times. I've reported multiple times that Israel is preparing for a war with Hezbollah. That's going to be the next big thing. After they deal with Hamas, they're going to go after Hezbollah, because over 250,000 Israelis had to evacuate from northern Israel because Hezbollah continues to launch rockets at northern Israel. So they're going to have to go in. Okay, it's just a matter of when it's the right time, okay? And apparently the IDF is moving to the final stage of seizing control in southern Gaza. This was reported by Israeli News 12. And there were some extensive Israeli airstrikes reported in Khan Yunis and central Gaza overnight last night. The IDF killed the company commander of the elite Hamas Nukba force in Deir al-Balah. He played a key role in the October 7 massacre, and he was eliminated in the Israeli airstrikes. This was reported by Ynet News. And the IDF is bolstering deployment on the Jordan border to counter potential Iranian Axis raids into Israel by Hezbollah or other militias. They also want to stop arms smuggling. So forces on the border with Jordan are going to be doubled, and they're setting up new outposts, and they want to build a security barrier. This was reported by Israel Hayom. Okay, that's another Israeli news outlet. And the IDF says it has completed a round of attacks in Lebanon against Hezbollah. Terrorist infrastructure, military sites, and a terrorist cell were attacked, and the Israeli Air Force jets successfully intercepted a suspicious aerial target that crossed the territory of Lebanon. So this whole situation with Hezbollah is continuing to escalate, and Israeli News 12 reports that negotiations with Hamas for a new hostage deal are very difficult, with Hamas making exorbitant demands that Israel will find it difficult to accept. It cites top officials as saying the efforts to reach a deal are unlikely to bear fruit soon. Channel 13 reports that Hamas wants Israel to pull all forces out of Gaza. So no peace deal, guys, anytime soon. I remember at one point the mainstream media was pushing this idea that, oh yeah, there's going to be a peace deal and everything is going to end. And no, it's not. It doesn't work that way, guys, okay? Netanyahu said multiple times he's not going to stop until Gaza is demilitarized, okay? And I support Israel. I support Netanyahu in his quest to rid Israel of terrorism. The chief of IDF's Southern Command, Major General Yaron Finkelman, says the fighting in Gaza will continue in a variety of methods, in a variety of intensities, and in varying forms. He says the change in fighting methods will make it difficult for the enemy to pinpoint them and understand them. We will continue to hit Hamas here and in all parts of the Strip. And Israeli populist and nationalist Ben Gvir said the war in Gaza is an opportunity for Jewish resettlement of Gaza. He said, "We cannot withdraw from any territory we are in the Gaza Strip. Not only do I not rule out Jewish settlement there, I believe it is also an important thing." And we also have Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich reiterating his call for reestablishment of Jewish settlements in the Gaza Strip and the voluntary emigration of Palestinians following the end of combat operations in the Hamas-controlled coastal territory. The correct solution to the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict is to encourage the voluntary migration of Gaza residents to countries that will agree to take in the refugees, he said at his far-right religious Zionism party's weekly meeting, predicting that Israel will permanently control the territory of the Gaza Strip, including through the establishment of settlements. Okay, so Israel's going to start moving people in there. Okay, after they clear out Hamas, they're basically going to make Gaza part of Israel. And Jordan and Egypt said that they're not going to allow that to happen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And 9 people, including one New York City police officer, were injured by an out-of-control driver in Midtown Manhattan early Monday morning, blocks away from Times Square's New Year's Eve festivities. The incident happened around 1:30 a.m. at 7th Avenue and West 34th Street. The New York City Police Department said just 10 blocks from where 1 million people had watched the New Year's Eve ball drop an hour and a half earlier. When officers tried to intervene in a dispute, a 44-year-old man fled the scene in his car, striking several marked police cars. 1 police officer and 6 pedestrians, police said. The injured cop was taken to NYU Langone Health, where he was listed in stable condition with a minor injury. The 6 injured pedestrians were taken to Bellevue Hospital, where their conditions are also considered stable. So very interesting, some weird situation there in New York City right after the ball drop. And Putin made a New Year's address, and I want to play for you this address. I want to read to you what he says here. So he says, "Citizens of Russia, dear friends, we are seeing off 2023. Very soon it will become part of history, and we must move forward to create the future. Over the past year, we have worked diligently and accomplished much, celebrated our successes and stood strong. In defending our national interests, our freedom, and our security. And our values, pillars that have been and will remain unshakable for us. Most importantly, what united and continues to unite us is the destiny of our motherland, a deep understanding of the utmost importance of the historical phase Russia is going through. The monumental goals facing our society, and the colossal responsibility for our homeland that each one of us feels. We are acutely aware of how much depends on us at this time, on our spirit for the better, on our eagerness to support each other in word and deed. Working for the common good has solidified our society. We are united in our thoughts, work, and struggles. On weekdays and holidays, embodying the essential traits of the Russian people: solidarity, compassion, and resilience. Today I want to address our soldiers, all those on the front lines,
на переднем крае
Fighting for truth and justice. I don't know about that.
борьбы за правду и справедливость. Вы наши герои.
You are our heroes.
Вместе с вами наши сердца. Мы гордимся вами.
Our hearts beat with you. We are proud of you and inspired by your courage.
Восхищаемся вашим мужеством, зная, что сейчас вы чувствуете любовь самых близких.
I know you feel the love of your loved ones right now. So he's a good speaker. I will say this was probably one of his best speeches that he's given since the start of the war. It's not some crazy 1 hour rant about the West and Ukrainian Nazis. He actually sounds like a good president here, and this is basically what any good leader would say. So looks like Putin is doubling down, and he's not going to stop, guys. Okay, so there's only going to be more escalation in Ukraine, and Zelensky's not going to stop. He still wants to take back Crimea. Russia still wants to continue on and demilitarize Ukraine and change the government there eventually. So there's going to continue to be escalation. And here we have the former heavyweight boxing champ, Klitschko, mayor of Kyiv, visiting some frontline Ukrainian soldiers, delivering them weapons and supplies. So pretty cool. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon below so you get notified when I post these updates to YouTube. I also have a Patreon. You can join my Patreon. I have a link to my Patreon in the description below this video. And until tomorrow, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.